Welcome back, Truth Seeker. Monday, January 14th, 2019. As per usual, we'll start with a little bit of this day in history. It was this day in 1784 the United States ratified the Treaty of Paris, officially ending the Revolutionary War. Britain followed suit April of 1784. And if you've read my book, you know how the start of the Revolutionary War and the end date were perfectly in sync, in tune with the name of the war. Again, in letters and numbers, one of the chapters is Wars by the Numbers. Our entire history contrived by this code. But notice January 14th, 1784, it was a date with 99 numerology. The Revolutionary War equals 99. The United States of America, 99. Of course, the United States of America was named as such on 9/9, September 9th. If you leave off the Revolutionary War and United States of America, both sum to 84. And again, read the book. You'll see how the length of the war is right in tune with these numbers. For the record, Treaty of Paris sums to 173, the 40th prime. US is 40, so is United States, both 40. If you write out 40 as a word, it sums to 84. Of course, Masonry, Jesuit, they have the Gematria of 84 as well. Also on this day in history, 1898, Lewis Carroll, the author who wrote Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, died just shy of their 66th birthday. And to be exact, they died 13 days shy. They would have turned 66. The name Charles, just using the alphabetic order, 66. The date he died, January 14th, 98, it was a date with 113 numerology. The reflection of that number is 311, and his most remembered work, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, equals 311 or 311. Doubt that's a coincidence. United Kingdom has that Gematria 65 as well. He died in the United Kingdom at age 65, again, just shy of age 66. In 1967, the Summer of Love unofficially began in San Francisco, California. Think about how the date January 14th can be written 14/1 like 141. San Francisco, California, 141. How perfect. In 1969, 27 people aboard the aircraft carrier USS Enterprise off Hawaii were killed when a rocket warhead exploded, setting off a fire and additional explosions. What this made me think of right away is, off Hawaii, military vessel at sea. January 14th can be written 1/14 like 114. Pearl Harbor equals 114. World War 114. History 114. From the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, December 7th, to the day this happened was 38 days later. So we know death equals 38. This is a story of death. The USS Enterprise equals 163, which is the 38th prime number. So how perfect did this happen to this ship 38 days later? What a coincidence. In 1989, President Ronald Reagan delivered his 331st and final weekly radio address. 331, the reflection of that number is 133. Of course, president's 133, White House 133, government 133 when Trump was running for the presidency. The headlines about him being the 133rd richest man. Fox News making a big deal when he made his 133rd appearance on Fox News. And I was saying then, it's not an accident they're putting up these numbers. Why would Fox News bring it to everyone's attention? Why would CNN even talk about it, that Trump's appearing for the 133rd time on Fox News? Why didn't they talk about that for the other numbers leading up to that count? Again, you learn this code, you can see what's really being put before your face. Why numbers are so important to news media and government and world elite. Big story right now. emerged yesterday. The Port Authority will move artwork depicting Saudi flag after location at 9/11 site draws criticism. And the art exhibit, which has several nations' flags on sculptures that look like wrapped candies, the exhibit's called Candy Nations. And lo and behold, in Gematria, using our 4-base ciphers, every value of Candy Nations screams out with relevance. Candy Nations equals 68. And what do we know about 68 in light of 9/11? Again, 1968, the year World Trade Center construction began. 911 was made the national emergency dialing code. George W. Bush graduated from Yale in Skull and Bones. From Bush's birthday to September 11th, a span of 68 days. The word terror equals 68. The word CIA, 68. They said the mastermind of the 93 World Trade Center bombing was born in 68, and a whole lot more. If you missed my video on what happened November 11th, 2018, it was a big tribute to 9/11 and a whole lot of 68 encoded. Candy Nations also sums to 49 like Twin Towers. America also has that Gematria 49, so does Scottish, as in the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Again, the headquarters of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry in Washington, D.C. On the outside of the Scottish Rite headquarters, 33 pillars, each 33 feet tall, like how it took 33 years from 68 to 2001 for the master plan to be achieved. Don't forget New York equals 33 as well, and the date that this news broke was a date with 33 numerology, January 13th, 19. Candy Nations also sums to 185 like World Trade Center. And finally, Candy Nations equals 139 like Freemasonry. America also has the Gematria of 139. And again, this nation established by Freemasons overwhelmingly. As for this exhibit drawing the outcry because of the Saudi flag, where they said the majority of the 19 hijackers were from Saudi Arabia. Keep in mind, here we are in 2019. But this news did break on the 13th of the month. Saudi Arabia and Al-Qaeda both equal 41. The date of September 11, 2001 was a date with 41 numerology. 41 is the 13th prime number. And we talked about this January 4th, the date that can be written 4/1, the story about the killing of the terrorist who was involved in the attack on the USS Cole leading up to September 11th. They said he was killed on a date with 41 numerology as well. Covered that January 4th, earlier podcast. And since we just talked about this day in history and Pearl Harbor, I just want to remind that the Project for the New American Century, the think tank that became the Bush administration, they wrote the document just before taking the White House in the late 90s about how the United States needed a new Pearl Harbor to catapult an agenda of military intervention in the Middle East and Iraq and Afghanistan, and also to, essentially create more of a surveillance police state in the U.S., all for the purpose of, world domination, greater economic power, et cetera, et cetera. Ground zero, which again was a term that meant the site where an atomic or nuclear weapon explodes below or above ground. That's all ground zero ever meant before September 11th. And don't forget the Manhattan Project, half a century of detonating bombs underground. For what purpose? The World Trade Centers did turn to dust in midair. There's certain YouTube channels out there like Ryan Dawson that make fun of people who say, you really think the World Trade Centers turned to dust as they fell to the ground? It's like, what is wrong with these people? Did your eyes not work? Yeah, they did turn to dust as they fell to the ground. That's why New York City was covered in dust that day. But ground zero. Notice the Gematria value of 127. Think about they called in the document for the project for the new American century, they called for a new Pearl Harbor. And think about what day Pearl Harbor began. December 7th, 12/7, 127, Ground Zero, 127, Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, 127. No. December 7th, New Pearl Harbor, 9/11. And what did both of those events do? They got us involved in wars. And who's the first recognized president of this nation? A Scottish Rite war general, George Washington. Again, we live in a Masonic military empire that does everything by this secret code. Here's what the exhibit looked like. 9-foot tall piece of candy. So today there was an active shooter situation, and then later they came out and said it was a hostage situation as well. This was at a UPS facility. And I don't ever recall one of these being at a UPS facility. There's been several at FedEx facilities. Maybe there has been one at UPS. I was trying to track down a story from the past. I couldn't find one. There's been multiple at FedEx, but now UPS. And my immediate thought, being from the Seattle area and knowing the history of UPS, is UPS was established in Seattle once upon a time by a 19-year-old. And Seattle and Gematria equals 19. And here we are in 2019, and it's been a year of Seattle-related headlines already. We're going to talk about a death in Seattle today as well. But UPS is a Seattle-based company. They're now headquartered in Atlanta, but they're originally from Seattle. And this happened in Logan Township, New Jersey. Logan Township, New Jersey. Logan Township has that gematria of 61 like active shooter. We see it again and again and again. Notice the gematria of Seattle. Here's the thing about Seattle, established by a 19-year-old. Seattle has gematria of 107 and 44. In addition to 19, it's 19 in the most pure cipher. Shooting is also 107 and 44. Seattle. Chaos. The agenda is order out of chaos. And speaking of order out of chaos, Logan Township is on the 75th meridian. So the details were vague, but that is what jumped out right away. United Parcel Service, what UPS stands for, does also have gematria of 119, like Fraternal Order of Police. Today's date can be written 14/1 like 141. You write out 33, it's 141. Police, Masonry, Secrecy Order, Federal, it's all 33. But what got comical is later they updated that this was a hostage situation, and it was resolved, and the police had shot the man holding the hostages, rescued the people, and sent him to the hospital. So notice the emphasis on resolved. 3744, shooting 3744, sent to the hospital 3744. We've seen a number of hospital-related shootings by the numbers. But in terms of this turning into a hostage situation on January 14th, today's date can be written 1/14 like 114, hostage 114. With the regular alphabetic order, hostage is 75. The location's on the 75th meridian, the 39th parallel, hostage also 39. So how perfect. Day after day. Stories like this, same numbers encoded. Just wait till they put out the shooter's name. It'll further prove the point. There was also a shooting yesterday that got some national attention. CNN never covered it, strangely enough. When CNN doesn't cover a story, I always wonder. I'm like, well, maybe that was an actual legitimate story. You know, shootings do happen. I used to live in Arizona. Arizona, every night that I lived there, the local news was the same thing every single night in Arizona. Every night you'd turn it on, and the top story would be whose bulldog got on the loose and ate whoever's cat or other dog. Every night they'd have a story about a bulldog on the loose terrorizing some neighborhood. And there's a lot of shootings down in Arizona. Of course, those were always in the news. But what did jump out about this reporting is that it happened January 13th, and they said it happened around 11:30. So we get the 113 thing. You know, that's the big number of the Scottish Rite. And they said this happened at a Payless Inn. So Payless Inn 44, shooting 44, you know. Could be a coincidence, but probably not. It did get some national attention, but I do think it's weird that CNN didn't cover the story. They said 5 injured and 1 dead. Mass shooting 51. So took place on the date with 33 numerology on the 33rd parallel. Just got to wonder. Today in Kabul, Afghanistan, massive bomb explosion. Several killed, many more injured, the headlines. And today's the 14th. Bomb equals 14. We've seen this before several times. Today has 34 date numerology. Kabul equals 34. Murder equals 34. Today's date also has 54 numerology. Blast 54. Fatal blast rocks Afghan capital Kabul. And again, as a reminder, for decades, we've seen stories like these now. And it is part of our cultural conditioning and programming. If something like this happens in the Middle East, it makes a headline. Nobody really talks about it. Something like this happens in a major European city or America, it becomes the story of the year. Programming. Yesterday, January 13th, story breaks. Passenger carries firearm through TSA screening in Atlanta onto Delta flight. Now, Atlanta and Delta, what do they have in common? Well, Delta is headquartered at Atlanta. That's their hub. Atlanta is the busiest airport in the world, and the whole purpose of this story, if you read it, is to remind people of the government shutdown. The government shutdown, the TSA employees aren't being paid. Some aren't showing up for work. Some are getting overworked. They're exhausted. They're making mistakes. This is what this is all about. How is it possible to get through TSA with a gun? I mean, all of us, well, maybe not everybody, but most of us have been in an airport in the post 9/11 era where every single time we go there, there's more and more security precautions. You know, X-rays, metal detectors everywhere, all of these procedures, shoes off. I mean, there is no way to get through with a gun. It's impossible. But look, Hartsfield-Jackson is the name of the airport, right? January 13th, 1/13, 113. What do we know about 113? It is the number of mainstream deception and dishonesty and lying. And we've covered this 1,000 times over. If you haven't read my book, The Big Long List of 113 and all the things it's connected to that have to do with dishonesty are in there. It comes from the Talmud, Baba Kama 113a. Says the you-know-whos can lie to the non-you-know-whos. Don't forget who runs your media. Also, this story came on the 13th. TSA equals 41, the 13th prime. With regards to the airport being in Atlanta, Georgia, 131, January 13th can also be written 13/1. It was a date with 33 numerology. Atlanta on the 33rd parallel, commonly referred to as ATL 33. Numbers of the game, you know. The name of the airport also has some other standout gematria. Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, 233. That's the 13th Fibonacci number. Story from the 13th. Atlanta Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport, 187. Number of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Scottish alone's 113. Same people behind 9/11 that have created all of these inconveniences and ridiculous things we have to go through at the airport. Same people that bring us this story, no doubt about it. You know, oh no, your shampoo bottle's more than 2 ounces. You can't bring that on here. You know, because we all know how we're bringing down the planes with the, you know, dandruff and dandruff-free conditioner. It's just such a joke. Another story today. Mayor stabbed yesterday, January 13th, died today in the hospital, January 14th, reportedly from the stabbing. Take a look at this. The man's name, which I will mutilate, probably. Pawal Adamowicz, something like that. His name, Gematria of 62 and 73. The word sacrifice has these numerical values, 62 and 73. It's happened in Poland. Poland's 62. And notice Poland's also 26 because he was stabbed yesterday, a date with a life lesson number of 26. It was also a date with 53 numerology, and stabbed equals 53. So stabbed on this date. And adding insult to injury, from the day of his birthday to the day he was stabbed was his 73rd day of his age, again connecting to his name and sacrifice. If you don't count the span of days, today, January 14th, is 73 days after his birthday as well. And it's today that he died. He was stabbed yesterday. He died today. So what are the odds? I mean, again and again, 73, 62, popping up in these premature deaths, these murders. Freemasonry's worldwide. This code is Masonic. Also, today, the day of his death, a date with 34 numerology, he was the mayor of a town, which I might also mutilate the name of. I don't know if the town's name is Dansk or if it's Gdansk. The G's silent, nonsensical English language, but whatever it is, the town's name is 34 like murder, and he's dead on a date with 34 numerology. Just yesterday, I covered the death of a politician who died at age 34, 139 days from his own birthday. Just in case you missed the video I did yesterday, let me just pull this up real quick, just in case you missed this story. Just a reminder that this stuff goes on worldwide. So here's another politician, dead at age 34. Again, murders 34. His name was Stephen Lewis. And from his birthday to the day he died 139 days from his birthday. And his name in Gematria, Stephen Lewis, equals 139 like Freemasonry. 139 is the 34th prime number. And not only that, he died from bowel cancer, 47. What do we know about that? But the big thing here is he died January 11th, 2019, a date that can be written 111. And it was a date with 51 numerology. And the Parliament in Wales, the Gematria, sums to 51 and 111. Sened. Somebody told me how to pronounce it yesterday. I think it's different. Anyway, dead on a date with 51 numerology on January 11th. He's the youngest member of this. And, you know, maybe somebody saw him as a real threat. He's a young man. Just what are the odds, though? What are the odds that all of this could be so perfect? Lining up with the profession. Again, that song, Murder by Numbers. Killing people is the way to the top of your profession. So, and this guy also died on the 14th. Dead equals 14, using the alphabetic order. Using the alphabetic order with the rules of numerology, it doesn't matter because dead is all single-digit letters. 4, 5, 1, 4. Another death in the news today. Former Yankee pitcher and coach Mel Stottlemyre dead at 77. And look at the Gematria Mel Stottlemyre, 77. Yesterday we had a former NFL player Bob Kuechenberg, dead at 71. Bob Kuechenberg, 71. Same cipher. What jumped out reading this is that he died from cancer in Seattle. And I've been saying look out for Seattle in this upcoming baseball season, and spring training's not too far off. But first, with regards to him dying in Seattle, all eyes on Seattle this year, and cancer. Cancer equals 44, chemo's 44, kills 44. When you flip the alphabetic order around and use the rules of numerology, Seattle's 44. It's like how we talked about that with the shooting. Alphabetic order, cancer, chemo, kill. We talked about how Nordstrom's, the Seattle chain, at the beginning of the year, they were established 118 years ago. They lost their CEO at age 58 from cancer, days after he said he was going to be just fine. Anyhow, this man dying in Seattle and being a member of the Yankees, the most winningest baseball team in MLB history by a long margin, it just makes me go, I'm already looking at the Mariners this year for 2019. Why? Because Mariners equals 43. This is their 43rd season. It's obviously a relevant number with these sports teams in Seattle. Seattle Seahawks equals 43. They've won one Super Bowl. They won it with 43 points. But it's the Mariners' 43rd season. And this year, the season begins on a date with a life lesson number of 43. Plus, it's the 2019 season and Seattle's 19. So, what else jumped out about this man's death is from November 13th, his birthday, to his death yesterday was 61 days later. That's the 18th prime number. Baseball equals 18 in the most pure cipher. Again, baseball with the 4-base ciphers is one of the best ways to prove the relevance of Gematria. Baseball with the alphabetic order, 54. 54 outs in a complete game. Roger Maris hit 61 home runs in 61. 61, the 18th prime number. Baseball with the reverse alphabetic order, 162. 162 games in a Major League Baseball season. And baseball 54 with the reverse alphabetic order in rules numerology. And don't forget that Major League Baseball is 162 as well with the regular alphabetic order. Go back and see my work on June 3rd, 2017, all the things that went down that day. In Major League Baseball, all of these records on this day, a lot to explain. Wasn't an accident. 351 is the 26th triangular number. Game equals 26. Ball game equals 26. 2017, November 7th, Roy Halladay, November 7th, 11/7, Roy Halladay died in a plane crash. November 7th is also the day leaving 54 days left in the year. And there was more to that, but again, baseball is a really good way to teach people about the relevance of the 4 ciphers. So this guy dies 61 days after his birthday. If you count the full span, it was 62 days. He died on his 62nd day of his age. And Stottlemyre equals 62. Sacrifice equals 62. Seattle 19 plus Mariners 43, 62. So I am really watching the Mariners this year. They've never been to the World Series. If they don't make it this year, their next season will be their 44th. They're in a team that's in the come-up stage, and they're due. So the Milwaukee Brewers had a really good season, coming a game shy of the World Series. They're the old Seattle Pilots team. That might have been a little ritual there as well. Another death in the news today, Indian film director. His name, Lenin Rajendran, Gematria of 67, the 19th prime. Here we are in 2019, 67, the blood sacrifice number. Notice his name. Sums to 67 and 86 like blood sacrifice. He's dead today, the date with the 34 numerology. Look at his name with the alphabetic order. Lenin Rajendran, 139, the 34th prime. Just like the politician in Wales that we just talked about. Also dead on the 14th, dead 14, end 14. And if you want to see that that's creepy, just go to that deaths in 2019 and 2018 page and just scroll through the days for like the last month. I haven't covered a lot of these deaths that are suspicious as well. But what's amazing is how many are Indian film directors. I know they got Bollywood over there, but I'm like, God, how many people make movies in India? If you're Indian and you're thinking about making a movie over there in Bollywood, you better think twice. Yeah, I can't tell you because I look at this every day, and it seems like more often than not, an Indian film director is dead. I'm just thinking, what in the world again? So today, Haaretz, the Jewish publication, they brought back up a story that we covered on November 6th. If you missed the coverage from November 6th, there was this cigar-shaped interstellar object, may have been alien probe. They've brought it back up today. And they're saying, the Harvard professor saying, the Harvard Space Department is saying that this really might be alien life. They've entered, our realm. This could be it. So I know a lot of people think that the New World Order's great plan is to have some sort of great big alien spectacle to forward their agenda, bring us together, declare global one world government. Anything is possible. I'd be surprised personally if they went that direction. To me, it just seems like space and aliens is just another thing to occupy our minds and keep us busy and thinking about things that really aren't that relevant to what's actually happening here on Earth. But just to go back to this November 6th, 2018 story out of Harvard, it was a date with 55 numerology, cigar-shaped, how they called it, cigar-shaped interstellar object. Cigar-shaped 55, I thought, okay, that's no coincidence. Plus November 6th was the day leaving 55 days left in the year. And that was the other thing I made the point about on November 6th. This was the day that we were voting for the 116th Congress. And I was just thinking, okay, politics, they're saying the Democrats are going to do well. What do you think of with cigars and Democrats? Do you think of anything? You probably don't if you're younger, but I definitely think about something. It was all the rage when I was still in high school. Infamous politician with a cigar doing things he wasn't supposed to in the White House. So anyway, they brought that story back today. I didn't think to measure how many days it was. Today would be 69 days later. Maybe there's something to that. 69 days later to think about it. But yeah, I was thinking we weren't going to see this story again, but here it is. The cigar-shaped thing in space. There could be aliens traveling for us. So says the great minds at Harvard. For all you sports fanatics, there's a story today. 20-year-old Army hero is being credited with saving the life of a Texas man after he crafted a makeshift medical device out of a ballpoint pen to perform a life-saving maneuver. Sergeant Trey Troney was headed home to Mississippi on December 22nd when he witnessed a car accident that left Jeff Udger bleeding from the head and slumped over the wheel of his truck. Troney enlisted the help of two other men to pry open Udger's door and used his special edition Salute to Service New Orleans Saints hoodie to help stop the bleeding, according to a post from Army Public Affairs. Think about it. This story happened December 22nd. They're waiting until today, January 14th, to bring us this story about something that involves a Saints hoodie after the Saints have advanced to the NFC Championship. He then noticed Udger's chest had stopped moving and recognized that he was suffering from a collapsed lung. So I just said, I wonder what the name Sergeant Trey Troney equals. And in the most pure cipher, it sums to 67, which is the 19th prime. Saints equals 19. We've been talking about this all season, that Drew Brees, his birthday before the Super Bowl in 2019 is 19 days. And for a couple more notes, the Super Bowl's on a date with 44 numerology. Saints is 44. Military's 44. It's a story about military, a military guy with a Saints sweatshirt. And, oh, by the way, today has 54 numerology. New Orleans and Drew Brees also have the 54 connection. So could all just be a coincidence. And we covered the Jamie Kloss story really well. Again, she was found 87 days after she disappeared. The man who took her, his name in Gematria equals 87. The police officer who was the spokesperson to announce the news, his name equaled 87. He said it was all thanks to prayers. Prayers equals 87. Anyway, today's headline, neighbors were armed and ready if suspect in Jamie Kloss kidnapping showed up. And a story like this just doesn't even really make sense. It's like, well, wait a minute. I thought it was like just discovered and then the police were there and they recovered her. And anyway, armed and ready. Just look at the Gematria 113. And if you saw last week's coverage of the story, I talked about how Behrendt County, where this happened, has all the Masonic and Scottish rite encoding. 113 is the number of the Scottish rite of Freemasonry, also a number of deception. What are the odds? Armed and ready, 113. And somebody also asked if I could look into Andy Murray when he won Wimbledon. Last week I was talking about Sandy Hook. What's going on with that? Why that's reemerging in the headlines at the beginning of, or excuse me. Last week I was talking about Stoneman Douglas. That's what I was talking about. And I also talked about the relationship between Stoneman Douglas and Sandy Hook. And then over the weekend, Derek's Gematrinator.com got taken down on January 12th by a Sandy Hook group. Yes, it did. Sandy Hook equals 112. Derek's calculator got taken down January 12th, 112. Remember they said Adam Lanza weighed 112 pounds. Birthday's April 22nd, the 112th day of the year. So now Gematrinator.com is getting attacked by the numbers. If you try to go to Gematrinator.com, it's not running. This right here is the little temporary app that you can run to get some functionality from the website. And I did put up a video for how you can get this. Maybe just real quick, do a tutorial on how to use YouTube again. A lot of people do not know how to find videos of a channel unless it shows up in their feed. So if you go to my channel, oh yeah, the name changed to Zachary Hubbard. If you go to the channel and then where it says videos, you click videos. Once it loads, it'll show you all of the videos in recent order, the most recent videos. And right here, this video that says solution, here I have the link to download the app and how you can get some of the other functionality back that's not in this app that's normally there. So check out this video. The other thing you can do when you're searching somebody's channel for videos, maybe you don't want to look at the most recent videos. Maybe you're looking for a particular video. Then you just do a search and type in the keyword. Just type in the keyword. Or maybe you want to see what channels are the oldest. Just click oldest to go to the beginning of the channel. You can also go to most popular. So different things you can do. And I mean, if you're looking for my video content, you really should be checking the video and just seeing what videos are uploaded, because most of you aren't getting notifications for any videos, and some are getting notifications for just some videos. So anyhow, talking about this, somebody said, hey, Zach, can you look into when Andy Murray won Wimbledon? And we've talked about this before, but just for the person out there who asked, when Andy Murray won Wimbledon, and the reason he asked about this is because Andy Murray supposedly survived the Dunblane massacre, the shooting at the elementary school. Let me just remind you. Dunblane equals 73. Elementary school equals 73. The word United equals 73. The word Mason equals 73. The name Adam Lanza equals 73. The Dune Blaine Massacre was March 13th, 1996, a leap year, so March 13th was the 73rd day of the year. It's also a date with 1112 numerology. They said Andy Murray was in that school and survived the shooting. This guy who's considered one of the best tennis players in the world. But when he won Wimbledon, he won it on July 7th, 2013, not long after the Sandy Hook shooting, which was synced up with the Dune Blaine Massacre. Again, that's well covered in my book, the parallels between those two events, both targeting first graders. Dune Blaine got gun rights taken away in the UK. But look, he ended the streak of 77 years on 7-7. And 77 is a special number. Secret Society, 77. United States is 77. He won this shortly after the Sandy Hook shooting, which was synced up with Dune Blaine, which supposedly he survived. But what else was interesting is, let me show you this. If you type in Wimbledon, the value that stands out is 146. 47 also jumps. He won it on a date with 47 numerology. If you type in United Kingdom, it equals 146 like Wimbledon. Also 205. And he won this 205 days after the Sandy Hook school shooting. I do not think that is any accident at all. I think that's all part of the ritual of sports and news and, you know, what really is the United Kingdom? I'd say the United States really fits in the United Kingdom. I'd say it's not just that island. I'd say it's everywhere they colonized and spread their, you know, Masonic way of life. Andy Murray ends the 77-year drought on 7-7. And I forget what it was with Tony Blair. Tony Blair had some big 7-7 ritual too. Of course, they had the July 7th 7-7 attacks in the UK, which was a massive 77 ritual, which was in tribute to September 11th, where 77 was the number. So numbers have meaning. And I don't quite have an hour worth of material today. It's not the busiest day in the news. More on Jamie Kloss. We've already covered that pretty well. I think we've done what needs to be done there. So we can cut it short today. Be back tomorrow, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern. For all of you who aren't getting these live, you're not hearing my message about these being Patreon exclusives when they're live. It's only live on Patreon. You got to sign up for $1 a month. And again, we're trying to get that total up to 10,000 people signed up at $1 a month so that we can get our first employee. And the man calling in right here, he'd be a great hire. Jonathan, mute the video.
Oh, okay. Hold on.
What's up, man?
Hey, I just wanted to ask something real quick.
Please.
Hold on a second. All right. From April 9th, 2016, that was the day Will Smith, the football player from the Saints, died.
Right.
And from April 9th to February 3rd, 2019 is 1,031 days.
Right. We've been hitting that one. Yep. A lot like the Super Bowl number.
So 131, right?
Yes, sir.
And 2 years and 9 months, like football is 29. 2 years, 9 months, and 26 days. 29 like the football number, 26 like how the AFC can win their 26th title. Also, from April 29th, 2017 until the Super Bowl, April 29th, 2017 was a day B.T.Y. Youngin, a New Orleans rapper, was murdered, who was signed to Cash Money Records. From April 29th, 2017 till the day of the Super Bowl is 1 year, 9 months, and 5 days. So 1 year, 9 months, like 19, like how Saints is 19, like how flag equals 19. So we've been saying it's all about the flag.
Well, the April 9th thing is huge too, because that day can be written 4/9. When Will Smith, the football player, got killed on April 9th, not only was it 4/9, but it was a date with 49 numerology, and NFL equals 49, so does Super Bowl as well. So, yeah.
And one last one. Young Greatness, another rapper from New Orleans that was murdered. He was murdered October 29, 2018. From that date to the Super Bowl is 98 days.
Huh.
Almost 99, almost 99 days.
Yeah. Will Smith, he wore the number 91 too, the reflection of 19. So.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to throw that in there.
Appreciate it, man. Great observations.
Hey, so what's the deal with the Gematria Database? Do you got any news on that, or?
Well, I'm waiting to hear back from Derek. I asked him this morning. I haven't heard yet. I said, "You got any news?" He said that they're supposed to get it back up. So if he can't get it back up, I mean, I haven't heard from him, but he can always move it over and host it somewhere else. He has all the code for it and everything, so it's probably not too big of a deal. But yeah, it's just a joke, man. It's a joke. So.
Right. I'm gonna watch your solution video and just go about it like that, because I had it up, but I didn't shut down my computer, so I was still using the website. But then when I tried to download it on the actual site, that's when it crashed. But I'm gonna watch your solution video and just work with it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
So I was reading your chapter 21. Undeniably rigged collegiate and professional sports chapter. I'm like almost finished with your book. I'm like, it's a good read for anybody who hasn't read it.
Yeah, it's a long book, man.
Yeah, I'm almost there too. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna send you $25 for the new book.
No, you get a free one, man. You always help out and stuff. You don't need to send any more money. Plus, you're on Patreon. For all the people out there on Patreon that have a good chunk of money saved up, you guys don't need to pre-order the book. Once I have the book printed and stuff, I'm going to look at, because I can see in the history how much people have pledged on Patreon. When I see people who've pledged like more than $30, I'm going to figure out how to get your guys' address and just send you a copy once I got this next book written. So you guys don't need to go out and buy another one.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Appreciate it, Jonathan.
I just wanted to touch bases.
All right, man. You have a good one.
All right.
All right, take care.
Peace.
For anyone who forgets the story about the death of the football player, Will Smith, literally the same day that he was killed, this is Will Smith, the actor, what he was doing that day. Will Smith, the actor, was at the MTV Movie Awards, which had this color theme for the awards that night. Gold and black, just like the Saints football team wears gold and black. And Will Smith had just been in the movie Focus. He had just starred in the movie Focus, which is set in New Orleans and has a lot to do with gambling and football. You know, it just couldn't have been any more obvious what a ritual was taking place with the death of the football player and, you know, the actor who bears the same name. So there was a whole lot to that. We covered this story so thoroughly. And one of the big trips at the time was I was talking about the movie Focus and how Will Smith was in it. And then CNN did a story on the death of the football player. And in there, you know, when you go to CNN, they have a written article, but they also have a video that plays. They had a video about his death, and for seemingly no reason in the video, unless you're awake to what we were talking about, all of a sudden they had like a 5-second frame where they just went to the shot of an alarm on the wall, and the alarm, the only word on the alarm was focus. And they weren't talking about the movie Focus or the actor Will Smith, but they just inserted this clip for like 5 seconds, a clip that had nothing to do with the story, showing the word focus. And again, Will Smith, the actor, had just been in this movie set in New Orleans. It was just like, I remember that like it was yesterday, because I was saying, come on, people, how are you not catching on to this obvious mockery and riddles and what they're doing? It's like the news media is telling you to focus, pay attention. Are you asleep? Can you see the obvious? And overwhelmingly, unfortunately, we know the answer to that. People don't see the obvious. So we'll leave it there. Be back tomorrow, same time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern. If you're not signed up at the Patreon, it's $1 a month to participate in the live podcasts. And thank you to everyone who has supported. Again, when I got this book finished, you guys, those of you who've pledged more than $30 a month, I'm going to figure out a way to get a copy to you in the mail. Really appreciate your support. You guys have made it all happen. And want to give something back to you guys. So we'll leave it there for now, Truth Seeker. Until next time.